how to survive a heat wave, watch a bunch of disaster movies, and pray that that is not where we're headed. This isn't strictly a list of disaster movies. It also includes films about survival, first contact with aliens, and pre- or post-apocalyptic scenarios. Whether the threat comes from nature, humanity, or something beyond Earth, these movies all revolve around civilization facing an existential crisis. And to be completely honest with you, they did help me get through a record-breaking heatwave. Number 1, The Day After Tomorrow. This is a sci-fi thriller disaster film released in 2004 based on the 1999 book The Coming Global Superstorm. A climate scientist's warnings about impending environmental catastrophe are dismissed until a massive storm triggers devastating disasters across the globe. As the world is thrust into a new ice age, he sets out on a dangerous journey on foot to rescue his son, who is stranded in a frozen major city with friends and other survivors. Battling extreme conditions, he races against time before it's too late. This is the number 1 film that comes to mind in terms of disasters on screen. It looks epic. The plot follows both a small group you will eventually care for and the fate of the globe, balancing all elements so that I found it thrilling and compelling. Starring Dennis Quaid, Jake Gyllenhaal, and Emmy Rossum, among others, who are all talented actors, and made this truly enjoyable to watch for me. It may not be a perfect film, but those frozen landscapes are all I'm asking for. So satisfying and pleasant to look at. On a not so pleasant note, I just recently watched a video explaining what AMOC is and what is happening to it currently. This is actually the premise of the movie. Do check it out, or if anything, just look up what AMOC is and what it would mean for us if it were to stop entirely. Not to be dramatic, but it seems like we're heading that way, and The Day After Tomorrow could be the closest of the movies on this list to reality. Number 2, Volcano. This is a 1997 action sci-fi disaster film, and it's loosely inspired by true events. After a powerful earthquake strikes a major city, an emergency management leader returns to coordinate the crisis while a geologist warns that volcanic activity is building beneath the streets. When molten lava erupts through underground tunnels and begins flowing across the city, the two join forces to find a way to redirect it. As destruction spreads, they race to prevent the eruption from consuming the entire urban area. This one stars Tommy Lee Jones, which is probably why I picked it when I was choosing what to watch on that day. Now, let's pretend that 90% of these movies are not set in some major city in the USA, and how ridiculous this sounds to the rest of the world. And let's set aside the cheesiness of some of these movies too, because we really have to suspend our disbelief when we watch these movies from outside the USA, just so you know. I was curious about the lead's job. How would they react in such an emergency? I just watched The Guardian for the same reason. I wanted to get an idea of how rescuers work. In a fictional setting, of course, but I can always read articles about each profession if it piques my interest. What are your thoughts on this movie? I was on the edge of my seat, honestly. Number 3, The Tomorrow War. This is a 2021 military sci-fi adventure film. When visitors from the future reveal that humanity is losing a devastating war against a lethal alien race, people from the present are recruited to fight decades ahead in time. A devoted family man joins the mission, determined to protect his daughter's future. Teaming up with a scientist and his estranged father, he embarks on a desperate effort to change the fate of humanity. The moment I saw this movie, I wondered why no one else was talking about it. No, this is not a cinematic masterpiece, but it portrays one of the most believable ways in which the apocalypse could start. And that's in my opinion. And before learning about AMOC and its current speed, I cannot tell you more because I would spoil the experience for you, but I'd love to hear your thoughts if you watched it and know what I'm referring to. This is probably the most futuristic option on the list, which is why I'm not super sure you would find it on a survival disaster movie list, and why I chose to broaden the field a little bit. Number 4. 2012. This is an epic apocalyptic disaster film released in 2009 based on the 2012 phenomenon. A series of worldwide catastrophes pushes Earth toward destruction as a struggling writer fights to keep his family alive while governments secretly organize an escape plan for a select group following alarming scientific predictions. When chaos engulfs the world, he embarks on a perilous journey to find safety with his loved ones. Racing against time, he must survive as the planet collapses around them. Why is this so long? It feels endless, and I'm not sure it was necessary. That being said, it's a solid doomsday movie. Despite being unrealistic, the special effects aren't bad, and the action keeps you on the edge. Just as usual, we have to pretend not to see the US centrism that pervades most disaster movies. It's cheesy and silly, but to those who remember how the 2012 phenomenon was all over the media for years, this may even feel a little scary. Do you remember that? Number 5. Greenland. This is a 2020 thriller sci-fi disaster film. As a planet-destroying comet hurtles toward Earth, a man sets out on a dangerous journey to find the last possible refuge and save his family. Along the way, they encounter both compassion and cruelty as society unravels in the fight for survival. With time running out, their desperate search for safety leads to one final chance at survival. I gave it a low rating just because I couldn't stand the female lead. In other films, the actress seemed okay. I had no issues with her, but here I couldn't believe a single moment with her in it. Setting this aside, this movie focuses on the human level of a cataclysm. I will not spoil anything, but you should check Paradise out. It's a series, not a movie. Greenland feels disjointed at times, but it was a better viewing experience than I expected. For some reason, I had really low expectations. Maybe because I had never heard of it. I have yet to see the sequel that was released a few months ago, but feel free to share your non-spoiler thoughts for both movies, if you've seen them both. Number 6. Dante's Peak. This is a 1997 disaster action-adventure film inspired by true events. A volcanologist visits a quiet rural town and discovers that a nearby dormant volcano is on the verge of erupting. After convincing skeptical residents to evacuate, a race against time begins when two children and their grandmother become trapped on the mountain. Facing an increasingly violent eruption, a desperate rescue mission unfolds before the town is consumed by ash and lava. I know it's the second movie about a volcano I'm putting here on this list, but I just watched them both, and that's why I wanted to talk about them. This has a straightforward story. You can see the key plot points miles away, yet you cannot stop looking. You need to know who will survive and how. Personally, I was curious about the procedures a team of volcanologists would follow, even if this is fictionalized, of course. The tension and effects kept me entertained till the end, which is exactly what I needed to survive the heat wave. Do you prefer this one or Volcano? Let me know. Number 7. Deep Impact. This is an action sci-fi disaster film released in 1998. A massive comet threatens to wipe out humanity, but the government hides the impending disaster until a determined reporter exposes the truth. After the crisis is revealed, officials launch a desperate mission to prevent the comet from reaching Earth. An experienced astronaut and his crew must land on the deadly object and destroy it before the world faces extinction. This one has a good cast, and even though this was so cheesy it was almost ridiculous, I cared for the characters and wanted for them to be safe. In my notes I wrote, there's some positivity, some realistic outcome, some fear, you have it all. Someone on Threads shared my opinion writing, I loved it more than Armageddon. What's your take? Number 8. The Core. This is a 2003 action thriller disaster film. A geophysicist discovers that a mysterious force has halted the Earth's inner core, causing the planet's magnetic field to rapidly weaken as the atmosphere begins to collapse and catastrophic events threaten humanity. A team of scientists journeys deep beneath the surface. Their mission is to deploy a device that will restart the core and restore Earth's stability. We could say this movie is mediocre compared to others overall. And once again, at the beginning, Los Angeles is in danger, then San Francisco, of course. In some other movies here, it was New York and whatnot. The rest of the world doesn't exist. Oh no, wait, Rome is being destroyed in horrible CGI too. And probably this is the most absurd of all, but certainly different from the other premises, because here the Earth's core stops moving, and this affects the geomagnetic field. It doesn't sound a good movie, then why is it here? Because I loved the cast, with Aaron Eckhart, Hilary Swank, Stanley Tucci, and even DJ Qualls, if you remember him from Supernatural, for example, among other brilliant actors. And I wanted to list various ways in which we can destroy our Earth, just to imagine a worst-case scenario whilst we are burning in record-breaking heat waves, listening to dumb and selfish presidents playing with our lives with billionaires and their pathetic view of reality. Sorry. Disaster movies are seriously helping my climate anxiety, even though it's nothing more than a band-aid. But allow me a rant, as my laptop is literally melting, and it's the reason why I couldn't upload any videos recently. Number 9. The Abyss. This is a 1989 sci-fi adventure thriller film loosely inspired by true events, and a novel was written based on this movie afterwards. A civilian diving crew is recruited for a dangerous mission to recover a missing nuclear submarine lost in the depths of the ocean. Joined by a military team, two estranged petroleum engineers must confront their unresolved past while investigating the mysterious sinking. During the operation, they encounter a dangerous and unexpected alien presence beneath the sea. Titanic would have been the obvious candidate, but let's talk about this one instead. I had just watched Black Sea, so I thought I was ready for the abyss and potentially claustrophobic scenes. I believe I enjoyed it because I had low expectations. I had seen some reviews a while back saying that the end result wasn't worth the effort of epic proportions it took to film it. I was impressed by this movie and the technical struggles both the production and the characters went through in real life and in the story. We're talking near drownings, insane filming conditions. Calling it torture wouldn't be too far off. I had no clue about the aliens, which made this film way more unpredictable and enjoyable for a sci-fi fan like myself. As I said, this one doesn't really portray a threat to humanity, except we're talking about a nuclear submarine lost in the ocean, but I wanted to include this because of the massive toll that this kind of expedition would take on people, similar to The Core, for example, which is way more unrealistic, and others on this list. So in a way, it's more about the resilience of human beings in certain unbelievably tough circumstances, but also a first contact with aliens, which may or may not threaten the entire Earth. Number 10. Project Hail Mary. This is a science fiction film released in 2026 based on the 2021 novel of the same name by Andy Weir. A science teacher wakes up alone on a distant spacecraft with no recollection of who he is or how he got there. As memories gradually return, he discovers he must use his knowledge and creativity to uncover a dangerous mystery threatening the sun. Along the way, he forms an unexpected connection that gives him hope he may not have to complete the mission alone. After my 5th viewing in just a couple of months, I can confirm it's the best movie I've seen in years. There's no competition. This occupies a completely separate place on my imaginary movie shelf. It still gives me chills, makes me cry. I feel all the emotions. This is what cinema was created for. To give us an immersive experience, to move us, to tickle our brains, to astonish us, to give us hope and meaning. Why did I put it on this list? Because this one and Sunshine share a similar premise that wasn't covered by the other disaster movies and is plausible in its own way. After all, they did a ton of research to create this movie and to make it as scientifically accurate as they could. Yet another possible end of mankind event dealt with in the most heartfelt way. You can check my review, and if you've already seen Project Hail Mary and are looking for something similar, check this video next, in which I also cover Sunshine. Do you agree? Would you put this one on a disaster, survival, first contact, pre- or post-apocalyptic list? Before you get mad at me, I watched Twister, Independence Day, War of the Worlds, The Perfect Storm, Armageddon, The Day the Earth Stood Still, and so on. And I even rewatched them all recently. But either I didn't like the characters, or I didn't enjoy these movies as much as the ones on the list, even if these are more mediocre, let's say. So they're not necessarily objectively better, except for Project Hail Mary, of course. If I were to mention all elements, I would have to add Twister. Alright. But let me know in the comments what's on your list of disaster, survival, first contact, pre-post-apocalyptic films. And now that you watched this, check out the video on the screen. Don't forget to hype this video and subscribe so you won't miss my upcoming videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.